All right, so the first thing I wanted to focus on, um, probably shouldn't go in this order, but I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and that is the North March. Now, this will probably be one of the longer chunks of thing I have to say. There's a lot of competing maps on North March. I thought that there was a canon map included in a Sword and Sword edition of some sort. I can't find that. Maybe it was just a Claridox map, and I was confused. I just don't remember. Um, Regardless, I have seen maps. I believe the Worded Maps has it North March here. I saw someone redo our borders from the CK2 mod and put the North March up here, and then, um, well, and then Claridox's map puts the North March here. I believe this is the one that makes the most sense without any outside influence, really. This is what the team has decided should be the North March. Um, Reasons there being the friggin' Ironborn are all over the place and causing havoc, which it's gonna be coastal in that manner. Um, this does make this reasonable down in this area, but the further from here it goes, the more difficult it is to justify the name North March. Obviously, North March fits up here, but it seems highly unlikely that the Ironborn are going all the way around Westeros, going through the Trident, and then messing with things up here. Maybe prior to the Targaryens landing, but definitely not the kind of thing that I think is going on at the time of the Sword and Sword. So that all said, I could have sworn that there was an actual map. Again, I believe there was a map. Not sure. I know I've seen it. I might be Mandeling hard. I had a bunch of people on our Discord kind of having a discussion where they insisted that because that map existed, the Webbers were supposed to be to the right of the Osgreys. But, I mean, I reread Sword and Sword a whole bunch of times. This is the kind of thing we do for each part of this story at all that gives any hint of where something might be located. In the case of the Sword and Sword, Dunk, the direction he's walking is mentioned a couple times along the river. And then when Wattswood burns, it's the whole thing is that the sun is rising from the west. So that would necessitate Wattswood being between Coldmoat and Standfast, and also Coldmoat would be to the west if the inhabitants in Standfast were saying it was the sun looked like it was rising from the west. So that happens on the Claridox map. One thing I saw on that map was that Leafy Lake was down here, and the Horseshoe Hills were up here. Some of these fan-made maps and the actual maps, to be honest, the height map element of this is kind of lost because they don't have to do it. We have to figure out where things go, and then we also need a height map, and I insist that the height map makes sense, as in water would flow downhill at all times. So those things taken into account, I believe there was, well, one of the maps for North March did have Nunny and Cobble Cove over on the east when the text had said from Nunny to Cobble Cove east to west. Yes. And so basically, to stop going on and on about North March, since only I don't know what the chunk of the fandom is that's going to really care about the North March. Also, slight, hopefully obvious thing that I was negating to mention is each similarly colored region is a de jure duchy. So the North March is these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 counties. The white borders are county borders. Then each individual color is each barony. Every sigil is going to be where the capital of that that should be the primary capital of that county, and that's the house that holds it. Another thing, since these are mod canon CK2 mod carryover sigils, I did set these up a long time ago. I'm not overly happy with some of these houses. Some of them were um, carryover symbology from symbolism from previous sigils that we had. So some of these, anyway, there's a lot of these things are going to get tweaked and changed and improved upon. But so we have, if basically if you follow the story, um, our location for everything works. It was kind of a puzzle making that happen, and a justification on, well, not necessarily justification, but one of the things with all of our house placement here is that obviously canon houses go where canon houses go, where we know that they actually belong. The rest of the map has to do with a lot of reasoning and also wanting at least 2 canon houses per duchy. Um, so there's a lot of spreading things out and making sure that the entire reach is fulfilling and interesting and has canon houses all over the place. I believe on a realistic level, nearly everyone that we don't know who holds land would probably be very close to the Mander. That's just how major rivers and population density works. But for the purposes of the CK3 mod and making sure everything is fulfilling, interesting, and playable, that is the direction we are going. I'm pretty sure we generally did the same thing in CK2. In a lot of cases, those wound up being barren houses, but again, if anyone has missed previous videos or dev diaries or commentary in our Discord, we do intend to make every single canon house playable. So when we did spread some houses out before and they were barrens, they weren't playable. Now every one of these houses will be a canon or a count. Not canon. Well, they're obviously. Anyway, words are difficult. I'm not the most intelligent of people. So, focusing on North March here a little bit, just a touch more. We do have that this is Leafy Lake. That's going to be a barony here. Wattswood is one of these two. Standfast is here. Cold Moats is here. Um, the Horseshoe Hills will be this barony here. This Daring Downs should probably be this entire county. Brandy Bottom might be the name of this entire county, and Brandy Bottom being either the primary town or the castle holding in the area. This should be Cobble Cove, Dosk and Little Dosk being villages within the Cobble Cove area. Durwell has Cobble Cove. Stackhouse has this county. Osgray has this tiny 3 county, which is going to make it a difficult play, which I think a lot of people like challenges. And then Conklin is actually shifted into the Crane Duchy. There's no necessary indicator that Conklin has to be in the same duchy as the rest of the mentioned houses in the Sorn Sword, but they do have to border the lands of the Webbers. This move here is really just to make sure there's additional canon houses in the Crane Duchy, and it fits both ways. So that's kind of one of the decisions we've been making. One of the ways we've been doing this is trying to get all of these things playable and spread out in ways that make sense and populate every duchy on the map. Okay, I've seen that my bad rambling on the North March has gone 9 minutes plus already. Really going to try and speed that up. Here is our spreadsheet, which is used by a map tool developed by one of our developers, Frolgar, with Titan Rogue's guidance, I guess. Huge thanks to him. This does benefit us a lot. There's a bunch of extra columns way to the right. Not stuff to get into now. This is extremely extra, but just showing off a little bit of how the North March is. Each of these, I believe there were six, right? Yeah, six counties there. So in the county area, you have the county names. Then we have the name of each particular barony, and the house that holds each castle will be listed over here. Um, just a thing of note here with this is on the screen so people can look at it. We can pause it. Whatever. This is all temporary and preliminary, but I do believe some things are going to pop up over and over during the course of the Reach video. Probably 20 instances of a case like this where Brandy Bottom is held by Weber 2. This is going to be a situation where obviously the Ospreys had cold moat, so in any previous bookmarks, we want the Webers to also be playable. So this is basically how we're going to make that happen. So we do try and make sure that that works out. And so that's just something to keep in mind that I'm not going to mention every time because I'm just going to forget about the instances where those are going to pop up or will need to be brought into the fold. So now when it comes to the general how we place counties, how we place houses, the Reach is so complicated primarily because we have a lot of different alliances. As you can see here, we have all of the houses placed in their duchies. Each solid line is kind of just a primary color for the holder of the duchy, who will be in red under it. So what we've done is put houses as dukes or de jure dukes that with counts under them that do not, in the very least, do not violate any of their known canon alliances. We have some mentioned things in here. All the number of the characters. Again, I mentioned the stuff with the Iron Islands video. I think I've mentioned it in our Discord quite a few times. Is what we've wanted to do is the houses that are most prominent in the story are going to be the houses that are much more likely to be dukes. If there's 10 members of a house, give or take, excessive exception, they're probably a duke house. So taking things like that into account, obviously military strength, etc. But still, we have a lot of cases where we come up with some interesting places to put houses based on known alliances. One thing I really like is how the Peak Duchy just kind of falls into place. In this specific instance, there's a couple pieces here that I really like, and that is that the Ambroses, who I've seen on different maps and even on our CK2 mod, they were kind of a house that bounced around the Reach many times. I did see Torrent Peak, which was the county they controlled, thrown in the north of the Reach at some point, which doesn't make sense because they're on the Torrentine, so the Torrent Peak wouldn't be anywhere else but on the Torrentine. But that aside, you know, there's ants on their sigil. They're a marcher house. That's a hill I'm willing to die on. That was an ant joke, yes. The Hutchisons, keeping in mind that the Reach logo, yeah, you know what, we'll call it a logo. Reach logo is a hand. In this case, it's a green blob, but we know it's a hand. So keeping in mind that the Gardener sigil is a hand and the Martel sigil is a sun, and they're pointing at a chasm or causeway of some sort on their sigil. I've always had the belief that the Hutchisons are literally, their sigils pointing at the Prince's Pass. That may or may not be the case, but it really fits well thematically. So The overly on the nose name of their county and or castle is Sunny Point, and it's pointing directly at the Princess Pass, so that's why they're where they are. Delay goods, I mean, it's another orange sigil with 3 black charges on it, but, you know, they do fit with the peaks in alliances in 2 or 3 of the previous Canon Wars. So it works. Obviously, I feel like they should probably be along the Stormlands because of the bolts. So this is, again, the kind of thing that just winds up popping up. I really don't know why I jumped into peaks. Probably partially just because of being on this file and the peaks duchy being one that I think is interesting. Um, really comes together pretty well based on alliances and sigils and not making gigantic jumps that do fit the canon and still manage to put a reasonable number of canon houses in each duchy. Um, oh, honestly, just analyzing this sheet alone is something that Bear and I could probably talk for 40 minutes on. Um, I've scrolled up and down it. It's not overly complicated, but we've had a lot of long discussions about the reasoning for who's canon, who's gonna be not canon, who's duchies. Um, just squirrel. Thanks, Bear. Um, anyway, not gonna come back to this, but it is important for fans to know that this exists, and this is one of the reasons why final results are what they are. Alright, so a massive chunk of the way into this video, I'm going to go completely backwards and start from where I should have started in the first place. Um, oh well, is start from Highgarden. So here's the glance at the Highgarden Duchy in the spreadsheet. The Tyrells are going to have this small county, which is, as usual, going to be a whatever. It's going to be the Duchy. Oh, lordy. Well, you know what? The hell with editing. It'll be the county that the Tyrells hold before the conquest. The other castles here. Castles. Oh, man. The other houses here are relatively justified. I'm not sure I remember where the Bushies were. We don't currently have someone slated in for Dunstanbury, but we will work on the history files and whether it makes more sense to put a mod cannon house there, just in case more information comes with upcoming novels. Um, Again, one of the reasons we have a lot of open spots is for any named characters to be able to be playable right off the bat without us having to do a lot of footwork. So, going from there, checking out what it looks like on the map. Might feel like it's a little on the nose putting what kind of looks like every white and green house into the Highgarden Duchy, but it is what it is. The combination of the Tyrell gold with green really feels like Middlebury just kind of works in that area. May or may not wind up being too on the nose. This setup did come after a lot of debate and discussion among the team, so we're happy with this, but it is what it is. Old Flower's obviously going to be here in order to, as a very, very probable bastard cadet of the Gardeners. And House Bushy, I don't quite remember where Bushy actually was. I think they were kind of a bouncing reach house in CK2. I believe they have like green walls or something, which with their sigil is a good name. Feels like it fits in the Highgarden area. Not really a whole bunch more to go over with Highgarden. I did not bring the actual height map. Sorry, I didn't bring the height map into this file, so I can't show some things that I already prepped this, so I'm just going to keep going. Highgarden is actually on a hill. This is a relatively small discrepancy here. We do have house placements that are very, very slightly shifted. Obviously, this is negligible compared to some of the things we had in the CK2 mod. I only have this lands map on this file as an overlay, keeping in mind that the exact placement on houses is not the same from the lands map to the worlds map. So some major houses are actually placed in kind of a compromise or average spot between those two locations. Obviously, Long Table pretty much right on the dot here. Cider Hall is over this way a little more, and New Barrel's right here. But these are pretty small. Honestly, I would probably move Cider Hall back over here, to be honest. Um, Also, just because I said that the sigils are on the capital of each county, they may not be. So, to be honest, this one probably is Cider Hall. In fact, moving on to Cider Hall area, Orchard Way or Orchard Crossing. I believe the Fossaways were the Dukes. No, I don't think they were Dukes. The Fossaways were the kind of the de jure Dukes because they were the stronger house within what was the Mandervale Duchy, at least at some point in the CK2 mod. The Fossaways are one of many, many houses in the Reach that are specifically listed as principal, primary, major, main, or powerful. Any house that gets any kind of descriptor like that in the text or in a index is raised to a duke status. So the Fossaways, instead of kind of being a weird almost duke, they're just dukes flat out now. So I think most people believe the Appletons should wind up in their area. So there's going to be relatively little argument about, these three houses being together. We can just, to be consistent, kind of continue on down the path here. Here's the, I said Orchard Cross. I don't remember what I said. Words are difficult. But Orchard Way is the duchy. Here are the Fossaway holdings within it. Moving on, we have the Ashford Duchy. They, I believe it may have been called Cockleswent in CK2. Relatively straightforward here. We have the Ashfords. Obviously, they're going to be in their own area. The Cockshaws, I decided should be, well, the team, put them here. Cockshaw, the name fits with being on the Cockleswent. There was not necessarily a better spot to put them. They definitely work out as previously shown when it comes to alliances and such. So, I mean, we can have good faith that I don't have to keep going back and forth on that file. Happy to put them there. The Gracefords being in this spot is one of the, I know the Gracefords were along the Mander before. I believe the Gracefords were another bouncing house we had in the Reach. I've seen them all over the Reach on the maps. I'm pretty sure a Graceford character is mentioned or part of the Sworn Sword story, but now I don't know offhand. The biggest thing with the Gracefords is that asterisk, everything I have to say in this video is not researched and going off memory, but I believe there was a Graceford who was extremely close to Unwin, Peak. The only person in this entire canon that would be stupid enough to have a first name of Unwin would be obviously Unwin Peak, but I thought I would just clarify for those who might not know all of the characters. Stumble, thoughts. Anyway, the Graceford was weirdly allied and extremely loyal to the Peaks, so we wanted to put them kind of close by. Probably even possible to put them in the Duchy, but there was already a lot of very. The Peak Duchy is dense with cannon houses already. Um, so we wanted them to be nearby. It fits in this area. Obviously, Ashford with Graceford is fine. I believe the Graceford guy was boinking Unwin's aunt, who was technically an Osgrave, but we don't know if she was an Osgrave by marriage. She was widowed. I believe our mod canon will be that she was a Peak by birth. So there were a lot of alliance things going on with those two. So anyway, that's why the Gracefords are close to the Peaks. So that wraps up talking about Highgarden and Orchard Way and the Cockles went. Alright, I'm pretty sure I already mentioned the Peak Duchy and with the example of how the alliances worked and how that also played into house placement and who was dukes, etc., etc. Um, if I didn't, here's a glance at the spreadsheet file for the counties that the peaks have. And then we have the, obviously I've already looked at their stuff in the Photoshop file. So then we're going to move right along to the Tarley Duchy. Tarley here, tentatively, CK3 mod will have this additional way from the Reach and Dorn into each other. We're gonna have to. This is gonna require additional testing. We did want to make it so that the Hornhill was a reasonable marcher house. Obviously, they are marchers and are the major marcher house of the Reach, and so it seemed very strange for them to not really have any direct issues or impact with the Dornish path to Highgarden from the CK2 mod. So this way, it should be much more reasonable to use the Princess Pass. If you want attrition into death, I think this mountain pass will be extremely difficult, but technically an option, which will make much more sense for the Tarleys being Marcher Lords. The Hunts we know are canon vassals of the Tarleys, and the other house going under the Tarleys' primary duchy is House Graves. Graves is going here based on just having a macabre name. Fits more in the general marcher, martial culture than in the more chivalrous Reach Greater culture. So I've always kind of pictured the Graves as a marcher house. I don't 100% remember where the Graves were in the CK2 mod. This was one of the possibly a change. So I just, again, really like the Graves as a Marcher Lord. So we're going to put them there now. Going back to the spreadsheets so we can actually check out the West March. Hornhill, Cornerstone. Hunt is going to be the the Counts of White Grove. This is kind of it's one of those long-term double check if we want to do this, but their field is white on their sigil. White Grove works. Obviously, the Peaks had this castle. We may be mod cannoning the hunts to be a slightly younger house so that they wound up taking it over sometime or being or coming into existence sometime after the Peaks had lost the holding. Moving right on down, we have Ridgeview, which is the Mullendore Duchy. This is a matter of some discussion. Now, canon wise, we know a lot about the Hightowers and their vassals, obviously. The thing is, many of the Hightower vassals, we know more about these would be counts than we do about many dukes across all of Westeros. Also, the Costains, Mullendores, Beesberries, these are all houses that are specifically mentioned to be powerful. So yes, they're under the high towers, but this is a specific instance where um, game hierarchy wise, we really, really, really wish that there was like a Duke Plus, a way for the high towers to be to have these as vassals, but for them to actually be recognized as powerful as they are. Um, we tried making this. It was a case of these counties were going to have to be massive and look very weird according to the rest of the map. The high towers have influence over an incredibly large area, and we're going to have to come up with some creative solutions to make it so that the high towers are, in the very least, highly influencing these houses. We do have some mechanics in the work to try and make that happen, whether that is a forced alliance faction type thing or something greater. We are going to try and make this work. Um, but for people who are fans of houses like the Beesberries or the Bulwers or the Mullendores, it was going to feel very, I don't know, cheating them in a way for these major houses to not be dukes in and of their own right. So that's kind of like the spiel here over what's going on with the entire Old Town area. So, um, Mullendores moving up to be dukes of this general region. We see their. I will show the setup in the spreadsheet for each of these areas as we go through. House Sloan is the only canon house we're putting in their county or duchy for now. Um, Obviously, we can see how things are named, but the Sloan Sigil, again, this is the kind of thing where there's some almost. Ugh. Anyway, with the fact that it's night and day on their sigil, then there's the fact that it's the sun again, Dorne. I really have always thought that the Sloanes should be bordering Dorne. This way they are. And additionally, with the purple field and stars, there feels like maybe some kind of a Dane reference there. So that's one of the reasons I've really like having the Sloanes where they're at. Um, Probably not important. Again, another house that bounces all across the reach. I do believe that there is one canon Sloane character who, off the top of my head, I think they were a Lord Commander. Um, there may be another character, but so it's not a major house. I know no one cares about them, but again, this is the just kind of the process and the debates and discussions we've gotten into over the last long time now. Moving down, this is the only duchy where no one, there's no canon house in this area. Well, necessarily. So this is actually going to be the duchy that the Hightowers do hold secondarily, which gives them a lot of strength. At least tentatively, this is our plan right now, is obviously the Mullendors are the Dukes here, the Costains are the Dukes here, the Bulwers are the Dukes here, Florence and Beesberries. So the High Towers will still have this land. I don't believe the Duns even have a canon character. I also don't think the Hastwicks even have a canon character. So while one of them may or may not be considered kind of the de jure Duke of the area, obviously de facto the entire area is just going to belong to the High Towers. Moving on down. Oh, well, I don't think I showed the spreadsheet for them. So let's see. The Old Hills. Okay. And that's kind of a old town, and then just considering this additional old town duchy to be the Old Hills, kind of goes hand in hand. Hopefully they, for the most part, they'll probably stick together. Probably a lot of opportunity for players to kind of make their own mark and start with that weak count and be able to build up a duchy here. There's a couple options for that in the Reach. But I think this will be a major one, is to be able to be, you know, start up a game, use your own house, become a duke. I think that'll be appealing, and we do try to leave a couple good opportunities for that in each region in Westeros. So, not a whole lot to look at when it comes to the Costain Duchy. Double check the Costain Garden Coast. Not a whole lot. Obviously the Kois and the Costains are here. Relatively straightforward. The High Towers, since we do have an instance where the High Towers are actually kind of losing a lot of canon direct vassals in a way, we did bring in canon houses to be directly under Old Town. That is the Sawyers and the Potters and the Roddens. Sigil commentary, since these are all mod canon sigils from the CK2 mod, I don't love the Potter or Rodden sigil. I do like the Sawyer one. We can probably expect this one to stick around. These two will probably get a change. We do have the High Towers obviously being actually holding the, I think it's called Battle Island, right? Correct? Battle Isle, my bad. So High Tower's actually here. And then we'll have 7 Shrines will be a barony. The Citadel will be its own barony. Starry Sept will be a barony. I believe this is Old Town proper. Kind of like our King's Landing on the map, which there's a video dev diary for this, but Old Town will get a similar treatment where there will be a wall that covers this whole general area, so you'll understand like this entire region. It's a major city, so it's going to be composed of several different baronies. Let's check out the Old Town. So we have the High Tower, Old Town, Beacon Bridge, Church Square. Then we have Sawyer, Rodden, Potter. Obviously, when it comes to some of these things, we're going to see Easter eggs and references. The honey wine, Ashbourne, and this area will be the remainder of the Old Town Duchy. All right, so Black Sound is next. That's this duchy here. Kind of not a whole lot to go over. Black Crown and Bandolin are here. We have the Black Bars and the Bulwers. Black Crown, Black Bar, called the whole thing Black Sound. Each house has something black going on for them in the naming. Um, this is an instance where neither house is actually specifically listed as major or important or principal, etc., etc. But both houses have a decent amount of members. The Black Bars have 5, I think, 4. It doesn't matter. The Bulwers have 4 current members. I think 3 or 4 historical members that are specifically mentioned. So there are slightly more Bulwers. The Bulwers are going to kind of wind up being the Dukes in the area then. In addition, the Bulwers are actually explicit descendants of Garth Greenhand, so they're going to get the nod. Not really a whole lot more to go on. Relatively easy to bounce to the next duchy. The Florence, Brightwater. The sigil here, Foxglove. I'm just lazy, didn't bring in the actual sigil from the CK2 mod. Whitewater. Obviously, the Whitewaters and the Foxgloves are houses that serve the Florence or have a member serving the Florence, so it makes sense to at least Occam's Razor and just put them in this area. Kind of not a whole lot additional to go on there. I don't think anyone would have any real complaints. I will switch over to actually show the spreadsheet for both of these duchies. Where are we at? Here's Black Sound, if anyone's curious. I'm going to start kind of going through this a little quicker. People can just pause if they want. Brightwater, relatively straightforward. The next Duke is the Beesberries. In how we were spreading out houses, Beesbury kind of got... It was a little harder in the Beesbury area. The only canon house they get is Good, and Good isn't even necessarily a reach house, but in previous video I had mentioned or shown how the forenames and possible alliances, etc., with these one-off characters that do have a house name. We did randomize which region they would go into, but by using probabilities. So the Goods wound up being a reach house. I really actually liked putting the Goods directly under the Beesberries for personal reason of the only member of the small council who had their head on straight and was making righteous decisions was the Beesbury, because their greens are terrible and the blacks are correct. That is the hill I will always have a fun time dying on. Anyway, that's honestly kind of the little Easter egg for the reason the Goods wound up the counts under the Beesberries. Save for that. Also, did I mention? Well, obviously that's not their sigil, but yep. Let's check out their spreadsheet file. So, or did I already check out their spreadsheet file? Now I don't know. I'm here, so I'm assuming I did. So then we can move on from the Beesberries. Already covered the North March. I don't think I'm a huge fan of Red Front as a duchy name, but obviously everyone can take a chance to check that region, that spreadsheet out there. But moving up, I don't know why I moved up so far, but anyway, the Red Front, which will not remain that. Just not a huge fan of making Red Lake the name of that duchy, because obviously most of the duchy is nowhere near the lake. Um, that one's gonna get a pin in it. It'll get edited or changed. Suggestions welcome. Um, I did mention again, Conklin's being given to the Cranes as a vassal, just to spread things out a little bit. This here is Nunny. Nunny might actually, I don't remember where. This may or may not have been a marker for an older version of the map. But I'm just going to pretend it's here for now. No one cares. It's fine. The Pharaohs and the Conklins being the canon vassals of, well, they're canon houses. They're not explicitly named to be vassals of the Cranes by any means. The Pharaohs, I believe, are another, have bounced all across the Reach House in our history. So now they're going to hunker down and hopefully stick around and stay in this region. Unless lore information comes out that violates that. I don't think that there's anything really big or interesting about this region. I don't know if the Cranes were dukes before. I'm pretty sure they weren't. They are explicitly named to be an important house, plus explicitly named Green Hand Blood, and I think I think they may or may not have also been former petty kings. That one I'm really not sure on, but um, in conjunction with everything else, like pretty justified to make them dukes nowadays. Rowans, Smithyton. This is just a mod cannon carryover. The Shermers of Smithyton. This is the general vicinity Smithyton always was. I like being able to carry things over from the CK2 mod directly into the CK3 mod. Just to think things like fluid for players that are familiar with both mods, or will be familiar with both mods. I think I mentioned Inchfield before, obviously major member of the Sworn Sword story, keeping them generally nearby and spreading them out into the neighboring duchies. Westbrook, put them along the river, very close to the Westerlands. Pretty straightforward. Checking out the actual map, just to double check how close is Golden Grove to where it belongs. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's probably about it for the Golden Grove Duchy. Let's double check what that looks like here. And then moving on to the Oakhearts. Oakhearts had the Ocean Road Duchy in CK2, so we'll just keep that name going similar. Run through to show each county, and moving into Photoshop. The Ocean Road Duchy, had to move Old Oak a touch over. Well, I guess I didn't have to, but there's reasons for it. The Lothars, I think I've seen them all over the Reach. Again, another house that bounces all over. Relatively sure there's no members of that house known. Anyway, makes sense for them to be coastal. They have a dolphin. Pretty easy and straightforward. Withers, squirrels, acorns, oakheart, they fit. Tons of logic going in here. I'm pretty sure Withers doesn't have any canon members, or maybe one. Maybe one. If there's one, I'm insulting them and calling them forgettable. I don't know what duchy's gonna be next. Let's see. All right, the next duchy is the Willem Duchy. I kind of have a lot to say here, being as the House Willem is a reference to Tad Williams and the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series. What we did, um, this is a pretty weak duchy. House Willem would be kind of a reach as a duke. Um, if you're not familiar with Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, that's um, series starts before the beginning. I think it came out several years before Game of Thrones. So, um, seeing as it's a reference, um, I just liked it as making them a duke. It's a weak duchy. The house does have several members, mostly because of the references George is making to the original work. Um, Checking out the spreadsheet, anyone familiar is going to see a lot of things from this world in these 5 counties. Lots of Easter eggs. Um, the world is Ostenard, and Darstone is an anagram of that. So that's the duchy name. The Hayholt is the main castle of the series. Pretty much most of these names come from that world or are Andal-sized versions of similar names from that world. So, I mean, that's just the kind of thing I liked bringing in. A lot of things from both worlds overlap in a lot of ways. Obviously, in Song of Ice and Fire, we have a lot of blank Chester names, and that's something that was relatively frequently happening in Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn as well. Um, yeah, just a lot of things are kind of cool about that series, and I liked being able to represent that in the Reach and give this relatively underlooked area kind of something that made it unique. Um, the Woodwrights, on the other hand, are the only canon house that I put under the Willems. I believe the Woodwrights kind of. I think there was a Woodwright who was working with Corliss very closely, um, making it seem like they're probably coastal naval based. Then there's the fact that I believe the Woodwright sigil has some similarities to like the Spar sigil of the Ironborn. I think there was also like very few houses in this world have like literal wood on the sigil. Obviously, the Shield Islands have kind of that as a theme going on, and House Spar on the Iron Island, or yes, of the Iron Islands. So uh, I've always kind of thought that the Woodwrights should be kind of a Shield Island house, but if not, damn nearby. And this was probably the best way to make that work. I like it. I haven't heard any real good complaints about it yet. So, um, putting them at the mouth of the Mander as kind of a protector house, it seems to kind of hit all of those tones. Um, really happy with this so far. So, sure, someone will disagree, but it generally works out. Um, and yeah, for a duchy, an area that's normally not super interesting and doesn't have any canon going on at all, despite being at the crossroads, of the other side of Highgarden. Um, it's kind of cool to bring a little more flavor into the area. Um, uh, Obviously, as I'm going on, that's something that I wanted to mention is obviously we have these major. No one is on both sides of the Mander besides Bitterbridge. So that's another. Oops again. That's another new thing for the CK3 mod. I know we had a lot of duchies that spilled on either side of the Mander. I know that Highgarden's county was on both sides of the Mander. Now you're going to actually have to cross. We're not having provinces on either side of a major river like that. After boringly talking too much about the Darstone Duchy, it's time to move on to our next duchy, which is going to be... Okay, our next duchy is the the Vierwell Duke Plus Duchy. Great, should have named that. Anyway, um, the Vierwells are named as a principal house. There's only 2 members. Doesn't seem. I suspect they'll be more important as the story moves on, but they haven't gotten a lot of focus yet. As we said, though, specifically mentioned as a principal house, you're going to wind up being a duke. Um, the Kidwells are under the Veerwells, mostly as an pretty much just as a look thing. Oh, well, let me make sure. Did I cover the whole? Yep. Okay, Heatherholt here is the last county. So those have all been viewed now. Um, the obviously this is kind of the black sigil region of the Reach. Uh, the Veerwells, we know Darkdell is their castle. May or may not wind up just being the county name or duchy name. Um, Kidwell, right here, really, honestly, can kind of just move on. Made them dukes. Time to move on to the Uffering Duchy. Kind of a similar situation. The Ufferings are listed as an important house, mostly by nature of the fact that I believe there's three members of the house. They were given land from during the Three Sage King stuff. Um, this was kind of an instance where we had a chance to bring another Duke in. To be honest, when it came to the map, there's a lot of empty things in this side of the Mander, but it also felt very weird to have giant duchies here. So we broke them up, and then Uffering was one of the houses that had enough members, and we know that they were old enough that they would have the prestige to be somewhat justifiable as a duke. Um, there's not anyone much more deserving than them that isn't a duke, so uh, it, it's fine. um, this is the area. What did I show the? I don't know if I showed their files yet. Let's see. The offerings have Manderside of the Rose Road. I believe the Rose Road was a duchy before. I don't think it was in the same spot. We put the Pomminghams under them. The Pomminghams don't have any canon characters. I I don't think so. Not really a ton of interesting things with this. Again, we're getting to the point where some of these duchies have a canon house or two, and we had to spread them out. I just wanted the experience for everyone to be able to have more than one canon house in each duchy, with plenty of open spots for any filler, semi-canon, mod canon, and obviously primary canon things coming from upcoming novels. Um, Small note is the things in the Rose Road were generally named after flower type things. It's a affluent area of the Reach, probably. All right, next duchy. Let's move right on. The Manderfields. This is the Risley and Riesling Duchy. Um, Not sure a Song of Ice and Fire community whether we're calling them Rieslings or Riesling. Um, I, I'm pretty sure they're named after like a science fiction award. But obviously the name is very similar to Riesling. Uh, and one part of this region is that on the world's maps, I'm pretty sure there's grape cultivation, wine cultivation stuff happening here. So that seemed to fit, being as their name is basically the same as a wine. Um, The Risley's have 3 characters and do explicitly have a Dance of Dragons allegiance. So that's another house that, like, these are again the duchies where, like, we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel on grabbing dukes, but there's just so much land here that there's definitely duchies in this area. And so um, the Risleys, I'm 99% sure, are now moving on from being just counts in the CK2 mod to dukes. um, Hell, it's even possible that they were barons. I'm pretty sure Risley Gate's a county, though. So, moving on, really not a ton of information or interesting things going on with the Manderfields Duchy. The next duchy is Sunnyvale at the top of the reach, um, giving the House Ball a dukedom. Obviously, they've had quite a bit of mention through the lore, so thought it was time to give the balls. They have 3 historical characters. They were again listed. We do have a Blackfire Rebellion alliance for that house, and they're specifically mentioned as descended from Garth Greenhand. So a couple things go their way in justifying giving them a house or a duchy. So, oh man, what is this house? It's not Reading. Reading, that's Reading, right? Yep. Okay. Um, Reading again. This general region on the world's map showed wine production, so Reading's sigil fits that pretty Occam's razor, to say the same thing twice in the same video. Uh, Easy to put them in here with the balls. I guess we'll just check out the spreadsheet. Sunnyvale, Woodbine, Olinger, Blandford, Golden Fields. Next area is, now the Golden Fields is going to be a duchy with some questions. The Stricklands are the de jure dukes. They obviously are exiled. So the Norcrosses have enough story significance and prominence and members to justify them taking up the mantle of dukes of this duchy when the Stricklands are ousted. Um, that's pretty much it. We do have that in play. So I guess we can check it out on the map. I just don't want to stare at this screen all that long. Just put them north up here. I thought that the Stricklands would have some prime real estate. According to lore, also seemed fitting to have them near the Gold Road. May or may not actually go through. It does. So Golden Fields makes even more sense. Name I gave Duchy a long time ago. Okay. Cool. I like that. Moving on then to the Roxtons getting a duchy. They just have the Orms as a vassal. I'm pretty sure Harp's home, Harp. Oh man, it's the same name from the CK2 mod, so we can check this out. Golden Field, the Ring, Harp's Head. Was that the name of the? I'm not sure now. Anyway, same general situation. Roxtons are justified dukes, and one house is going under them. This is the general vicinity of the Orms from the CK2 mod, so again, really cool to be able to bring forward mod cannon, things like that, so that there is that level of familiarity. And the next duchy is the Footleys. Footley has Footley, Liber, and Norwich as their. Usually they're right in a row, but this is fine. Footley, Liber, Tumbleton goes right here. See all these counties, and Bitterbridge will be next. So we'll check out the map. Footley here, obviously. Oh, you know what? Let's check out Liber. This is a house that has bounced all over the Reach, I'm pretty sure. Norwich. Norwich is here because, oh, I guess that's also the case with Norcross. North Cross, Norwich, North Ridge. In Norwich's case, obviously, there's ridges here due to the fact that they are the only, besides the south of the Reach, along the Red Mountains, the only thing in the north of the Reach that has hills is, well, or hills that show up on the map at least, is the Tumbleton area. So, I thought it was relatively fitting for the Norridges to wind up in the Tumbleton area. Liber, no good justification there, just where they wound up. Not going to bullshit my way into a good reason for them being here. That's that for the Tumbleton Duchy. Moving on to the next duchy. What's after? Oh, that was Bitterbridge. We can see the names on everything here. Caswell Bridges. Obviously, I feel like Bridges going under Caswell makes sense because Bitterbridge. Cordwainer's Hammer Hall is in this general vicinity literally just because this is general vicinity. We had Hammer Hall in the CK2 mod. Again, broken record, carrying forward things. Pretty sure Hammer Hall was around this region. Oh, I did not change. Anyway, pretty sure Hammer Hall was around this region. Obviously, this is Bitterbridge. Not a whole lot to go on with that particular county. Doubt anyone's going to have any arguments or complaints there. Alright, so the next area is Blueburn. This whole river is the Blueburn, but oh, this S is Stafford. I think they're kind of a good situation where the house isn't necessarily anywhere, but we have to put them somewhere. They wound up being a Reachman house. This gives 2 cannon vassals to House Meadows. Varner was in this general vicinity before. That's the reason they're carrying over. Stafford's coming over here. That's pretty much everything to do with that. Let's check out their spreadsheet. Meadows, here's the Grassy Vale Duchy, Blueburn, Wesselvare, Hatchbury, Stafford, Roseford, and Wannington. Long table will be the Merryweathers Duchy. Relatively straightforward. Being as they have the Horn of Plenty on their sigil, House Cobb. Cobb may or may not. Is Cobb a cannon Reach house, or is Cobb another house we placed in the Reach? I am not 100% sure on that. I think. Well, it's fine. They definitely fit under the Long Table Duchy. That wraps that up. Then we have the Shield Islands. Pretty straightforward. Do have a couple things to say about the Shield Islands. Let's get into it. don't want to pull one over on anyone. The shield islands will be larger in size. I don't think that it looks ridiculously large, but when I do show the map, like they are quite a bit smaller on this map in comparison. I'll actually get rid of opacity. In order to make them playable and for it not to seem like they're tiny, they kind of just had to be boosted up a little bit. The shape changes a little bit because this is kind of a blending of the size and shape with the world's map for the reach with this land's map for the reach. So I've mentioned that more than once before, I think. So not a ton to get into with the Shield Islands. I did just want to point out that they are a little bit larger. I don't think that should really not be a negative. If it winds up being really disliked, it's something I'm willing, well, we are all willing to change. Let's see. You know what? I'm not going to get into that right now. Anyway, that's the Shield Islands. I believe the Arbor's next. Red wine fans should really appreciate the Arbor going from a single county to 6 counties. So their duchy will be pretty strong. And there will be a lot of depth in this area now that we were really missing before. So I really look forward to that. I think people are going to like the Arbor having a whole lot going on. Obviously, each named canon island is now actually represented, as can be seen, giving the opportunity for the Ironborn to actually take those counties when it happens, which should be cool. That's the thing I think we mentioned on the Iron Islands video, is making sure that that transition of land can happen wherever it makes sense. Let's check out the actual red wine arbor. And that is going to do it for wrapping up every single duchy. Some kind of justification and discussion on every duchy on this godforsakenly large area of the map. So many things glossed over. Obviously, there's a ton of competing maps on the Reach. You get a basic amount of the reasoning and logic behind why we're doing what we're doing. I'm sure that we'll wind up moving some things around here. Upcoming material will probably indicate someone's a vassal of someone or change some alliance things that do come into very high on our list of the like justifications for who's where in the reach and who's under what duke. But it's also possible that nothing gets published. Yeah, long video. Really apologize for that. Please feel free to yell at me for that. I just really want to get a video out there. I know a better prepared video would have taken way longer to do. Probably would have taken another couple days to even get this out. So, really did the whole stream of consciousness thing here. Working hard. Thanks for being fans of the mod. Really trying to come up with, I would really love to come up with some timetables. I know I had a whiny post on our Reddit about that. But I think we're going to try and move forward and keep everyone a little more in the loop. I do know I've mentioned before There is the catch-22 on, you know, how much time things like this do wind up taking, and really being passionate and wanting to get development done, and like being a little frustrated that this takes time from that. So um, we're gonna come up with ways, creative ways and logistical ways and organization to make sure that we can get some more information out and kind of keep a little update on the things that have been happening recently. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm not sure at this point if I did this video for the reach. I think I can justify doing this for pretty much every region down the line. I'll shut the hell up now.